Let's have a discussion around the Texas Longhorns quarterback room, because when Arch Manning committed, there was this perceived plan that Arch Manning would come in, redshirt for a year, lose the ID a couple of times, no big deal, play some football on the practice squad or maybe get some reps with the twos, whatever it ended up looking like. Arch Manning would get some time behind closed doors to develop for one season. And then Quinn Ewers would have a great season, go on to the NFL, year one in the SEC, Arch Manning, it's your ball, baby, let's roll. Well, with Quinn Ewers deciding to now come back to Texas for another season, there seems to be a little bit of this narrative that's building that we're going to have a quarterback battle in the 40 acres. I personally have a very strong opinion on this, and we'll talk about it right now. Before we do that, though, Texas fans, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We have had y'all a part of this show, The Hard Count, since we did it in a lobby in Waco, Texas. Y'all were subscribing to it. Y'all were supporting us. Y'all were championing us. And now we're here doing this show with On 3. So if you haven't yet subscribed, no time at the present. We appreciate you so much for that. Going back to what I said, the perceived plan was Arch Manning, you get a year under your belt to develop. Once Quinn Ewers has 1 year as starting quarterback while you're on campus, then you get to start the year after, first year in the SEC. That was kind of the perceived timeline. Now, Quinn Ewers, obviously, that was his second year starting, so we're all on the same page here. But Quinn Ewers coming back for a third season. And I think there's some people that are starting to convince themselves that Arch Manning should be the guy for the job in 2024. Now, I want to make this very clear. I think Arch Manning is not in any way, shape, or form overrated. There's some people that say, well, if his last name wasn't Manning, would he have 5 stars next to his name? I'll tell you what. If he wasn't a dude, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban wouldn't have offered him, wouldn't have spent their time recruiting him. Those are two dudes that don't waste their time, just so we're all on the same page here. So Arch Manning, I wholeheartedly believe, is going to be all that when it's his time to play. But when it comes to the Arch Manning playing in 2024 thought process, I think there is two very strong opinions on either side of the spectrum. The first is, well, he needs to play. He's far too talented to not be playing. He's far too talented to sit on the bench for another season. And to that, I would say, I don't disagree he's enormously talented. I just told you I think he's super talented by nature of who was recruiting and by nature of what he was billed as a recruit in the 2023 class. But that thought that he's too talented to not be playing right now is based in really third-party sources, what you read on message boards, what you think you saw from different flashes in football games. And I'm not saying you're wrong that he's not super talented, but is he more talented? Does it give you a better chance to win football games than Quinn Ewers? Have we really seen anything that makes us feel with 1,000% certainty he's the better option for you on the 40 acres right now in 2024 over a quarterback who's going into year 3 and has done a lot of good things for you? Happen to feel like that's not necessarily the case. Well, the other side of the conversation is people saying, man, he's a bust. He's a bust. If he were any good, he'd play this season. Well, again, that's, I think, one, irrational, which I just addressed a second ago. And two, the thought that Arch Manning is somehow not going to be good is based in what you saw in a couple of plays in a spring game where you already had this opinion before that saying, well, he's not that good. He's just all about his last name. If his last name was Johnson, he wouldn't even be a 3-star. And to that, I'm just like, all right, I can't help you. You're going to hold that opinion either side of this, all right? Whether he had thrown for 4 touchdowns in that spring game or thrown 4 interceptions, you would have said the same thing, right? Like, that's a solid opinion that's not really based in what you're watching on the field. Now, going back to what I was saying, I think the reality is very clear here. There's the perception and thinking that he's eventually going to be great in Texas. I believe that. But in 2024, you have a quarterback on your roster that won you your first Big 12 championship since 2009, that took you to the college football playoff, that also beat Alabama with Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa by double digits. I think that's your starting quarterback going into year 3. I think that's the guy that you got to roll with based on what we've actually seen on the football field. Now, I would also say Arch Manning has a chance to be really good. Really, really good. This is by no way, shape, or form me telling you Arch Manning isn't going to be awesome when he gets his chance to be quarterback 1 in Austin. But again, going back to this thought that we have to address in 2024, your first year in the SEC, who gives you the best chance to win football games? Who gives you the best chance to win football games? Because what I just said a second ago, you got a quarterback who's been there, done that to a degree, who's proven he can play at a high level, who's proven he can win in the SEC, winning against an SEC team in Tuscaloosa, pretty convincingly, by the way. Year 1, for any football player, much less a quarterback his first year in the SEC, there's going to be some growing pains. You would expect that with Arch Manning. And those growing pains, again, are amplified by playing in the Southeastern Conference your first year. What if Arch Manning sitting another year behind Quinn Ewers is actually just best for all parties involved? What if this is actually the best path forward for everybody? Texas, you get to have a quarterback who's going into year 3, who is a stable force for your offense, who's coming off of a really solid season. Quinn Ewers gets to help his NFL draft stock, by the way, which is, again, best for all parties, that he gets a chance to put more out there for scouts and play against the best competition in the country, in the SEC. And Arch Manning gets another year to mature physically, to develop as a quarterback, to get more comfortable in the Steve Sarkisian offense, to be even more prepared for his chance when he is QB1 on the 40 acres. That's best for all parties. And I want to address this one more time, too. The thought that Arch Manning even considered transferring, even before he said, I'm not going anywhere, even before he said he never even thought about transferring, that was never on the table, because the Manning camp is playing chess. Zero interest in checkers. They're not up in arms about who's starting against Michigan in the Big House. They're not worried about that. They're thinking about, okay, can Arch Manning be drafted as high as possible when it's his time to go to the NFL? It's his draft stock, and it is his ability at the very best spot it could be. Did he squeeze all the juice out of his college career when it's his time to be drafted? That's what Arch Manning and that's what the Manning camp is thinking about. I have to believe this scenario where Quinn Ewers has a good year and still comes back, I have to believe that was considered when it came to Arch Manning deciding on Texas. If it was about playing early, he could have gone somewhere else. If it was about playing as a true freshman, he would have gone somewhere else. He committed to Texas because Steve Sarkisian is a quarterback whisperer, because he develops quarterbacks, and he's going to help Arch Manning reach his fullest amount of potential. That's what this is about. It's not about playing as your second year on campus. It's about being ready for the NFL. And so Arch Manning having another year to sit, I don't think he's worried about that at all. Not to say he's not a competitor, but just to say this is still sticking to the script of what the Manning camp, I believe, and what Arch Manning, I believe, is all about, which is playing football. Not about NIL, not about having your name in lights, not about winning the Heisman Trophy as a true sophomore. It's about being most prepared for the NFL when it's his time. And right now, Quinn Ewers gives you the best chance to win football games. So for Texas fans, Quinn is your guy. Let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the fact that he's coming back for another season, and I think has a chance to do some really good things for you in the SEC. Got a stable hand headed into the SEC. I think it's the best case for all parties involved. So when it comes to the discussion, the narrative's going to build now. Be careful. Narrative's going to build. Is Arch Manning pushing Quinn Ewers? Hopefully he does push Quinn Ewers. Hopefully it is competition in that quarterback room. But Arch Manning is going to be a great backup for another year. Quinn Ewers, barring something wildly unforeseen, is going to be your starting quarterback. And I think that's exactly what you would hope for if you're a Texas Longhorn fan and you want to be competitive your first year in the SEC. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. Live show tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on this platform, Beyond 3 YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.